back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the fifth episode of the Hustlemode podcast. I am your co-host, Neil Prasad. I'm joined here with my colleague, Mr. Jason Rule.
Hello,
Jason,
hello.
how are you doing tonight?
Doing great, sir.
Awesome. Listen, thanks again for joining me here. For those of you who aren't familiar or perhaps are new to our channel, thank you so much for taking time to listen to us as well as see us and share your precious moments. Hopefully, we're going to be able to deliver some value. We always encourage feedback, and hopefully we can connect at some level, whether it be through social channels or by sending us an email directly to have some positive feedback, or perhaps share or look at episodes or topics that you would like to see covered in future programming opportunities. Without further ado, I want to get into a little bit of sort of a, not necessarily a trending topic, but something that's more relevant in today's time. And that would be taking a closer look at social selling.
Yeah, it's a great topic.
Any experience with social selling, Jay?
Yeah, I'd like to say that I spend quite a bit of time on the major social channel for me in my business, and that's LinkedIn. Spend a lot of time researching companies, looking for contacts that may be relevant to some of the companies I want to speak to. Also using it and trying to be as participating as much as I can on the platform, just to make sure that I am engaging with the, if you want to say algorithm or whatever, and I'm sure you'll get into that, but just trying to really participate in what goes on LinkedIn and make sure that I am adding value to the people that I am commenting on, and trying to add some value myself by posting stuff that I find interesting about my industry, showing some expertise. So to answer your question, love social selling. Love it.
That's really great, because you identified a few sort of tidbits that we were going to sort of dig into a little bit further in today's episode. But for those of you who may be new to selling or social selling, I think it's important for the audience to just take a closer look and just identify, what it is specifically. So, like, social selling is basically just identifying or using today's tools, social media wise, and channels, in order to effectively connect with people. I think one of the big keys that people forget, and Jay, you can get into the sort of the specific definition a little bit better, but I just want to share my two cents here. With respect to the social opportunity, I think people forget that it could, whether it's B2B, B2C, D2C, it really doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's, I don't want to say it because it sounds so cliche, but it's H to H, right?
Human to human.
Yeah, and I think what ends up happening is people forget that there's a real person. Let's touch wood. Hopefully, it's a real person and not a bot. But
no bots. Yeah,
there should be a real person on the other end of that account, right? At the end of that username.
Yeah,
so
agreed.
Just give me the textbook definition, Jay. What's social selling?
So if you look up social selling in the dictionary, it would be defined as when salespeople use social media to find and engage new prospects, when they use social media by answering and asking questions to engage with their subject. So it's one of those things where you're trying to engage prospects with either content or direct, as you mentioned, human to human interaction. So it's really just trying to take social media as a platform that was originally created for people to connect on a people-to-people perspective, and then leveling that up into a business-to-business or a people-to-business perspective, or whether it's a business selling to an individual. So it's got many different definitions that you can look at. But when you look at it, there's different models, and it's being defined by different experts and different folks in many different ways. But I think instead of looking at the textbook definition, Neil, I think what I would want to give our audience is some real world experience, some use cases and some scenarios where you, and then maybe I'll offer some, use social selling to engage with a prospect, to maybe learn about a new opportunity, create a new opportunity, maybe out of nowhere. But I wanted to ask you, from a social selling perspective, is there any good practical stories or practical pieces you can give our audience about how you use social selling?
Uh, Me personally, I think I'm not on every platform. So personally speaking, I speak to my I play in my wheelhouse, right? And by that being said, like I'm not on Twitter as much as I should be. I have a Twitter account. I own it. Like I think it's important for us to own the identities of our social media extensions, if you want to call it, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
This way you can have sort of your personal brand be relevant in various areas. And who knows, as things evolve, maybe you want to get into or start to explore that particular environment, right? Like
Yep.
you and I were chatting about Twitch the other day, as far as what we could be doing or what we can be doing in those particular arenas. The same
Mhm.
thing is with TikTok, right? Like TikTok
Yeah.
is exploding right now, and there's a lot of B2B play, and brands are starting to sort of evolve, and influencers are just blowing up on that
Oh,
platform. So
100%. Yeah.
you might think that, yesteryear, or like even as close as 2019, that TikTok was just for teenagers. But like if you look at any social media fad or trend that's actually blown up over the years, it starts with a younger demo to begin with, and then the evolution of how that increases it's not only acceptance but usability in an
Yeah.
older demographic, and how people are starting to actively have their space and grow their followers. I think it's just multiplying effort. So before I get into sort of specifics for each channel, which I think that's a pod in itself for an episode, but I really want to
Yeah,
just go
for sure.
30,000 feet up and really take a high level, and perhaps look at the do's and don'ts, maybe some tips, maybe some techniques, and like you said, like personal examples of how social selling has been implemented throughout. And we're going to try to keep this a nice little tight episode. So when it comes to owning your own properties, I think you need to speak to your strengths, right? If you're a fluent communicator and you're great with the written word, Twitter might be your landscape. Maybe you want to start writing articles on LinkedIn, right? Like
Yeah.
utilize the strengths that's been given to you. If you're more on the artistic side, and or you want to do something like what we're doing right now with respect to having a podcast, or launching a YouTube channel,
Yep.
there's so many different opportunities or available to us today. And the best thing about all of this, what's the best thing about all of this, right?
It's free.
100%, zero, zero. Well, I mean, to some extent, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah. Well, you need the equipment at times, right? Like but
yeah,
it's
I have
not a it's
questions,
not a
right?
barrier. Like this
You
thing
know,
here, like
you beat me
it's
to
just
it, man.
yeah,
You beat me to it.
that's your full studio. You can edit, you can record, you can broadcast, you can type, you can do whatever. Like I know a lot of millennials don't even own a computer, right? They own a tablet and a phone. That's all they need. They own a computer maybe just for their jobs that they have. And that
Yeah.
computer, rarely leaves their their apartment or their condo or their house, right? It's not a factor in their everyday life.
And I don't
But
want to I don't want to provide some ageism here, but I mean, like, I've seen boomers on the other side too, where I just came across, so perfect example, social selling, right? Like I was posting on LinkedIn, scrolling through my feed, came across a conference that I was attending. I promoted that conference through LinkedIn, as well as through Instagram and Facebook. And next thing I know, a gentleman had reached out through that particular conference chat and asked me if the organization that I was with does branding. And that was just through a reference point, because we had a similarity, because we were both attending a virtual conference. And I'm not talking like this was 3 weeks ago. It's not something that's sort of outdated, right? This is relevant stuff.
yeah, 100%.
And that
Mm.
initial discussion and LinkedIn messaging, so process, if you want to really get down into it, I exchanged a message with a gentleman. First, I invited him as part of my network on LinkedIn. So we
Yep.
became connected. From that, I actually sent him over a voice memo. I don't know. A lot of people are maybe they're familiar with it, maybe they're not. I don't know where your comfort level is or your
Mm.
IQ with LinkedIn, but you can use LinkedIn through the mobile app to send an audio message.
Yeah.
And I sent him
Quite,
over a
quite
quick voice
effective.
message. Yeah, because you know why? He's got his phone and he's using his phone, and
Yeah.
it's something that's not necessarily expected. I don't know. Do you receive a lot of voice memos from your network?
Only from you. But no, no, not generally. But it did take me a little step back because I didn't know that that was an option you could use, and it was a lot more effective than typing.
Fast.
It yeah, faster too, and you put that
Bro,
in your toolkit.
you have it in your app. I don't have to go to my CRM. I mean,
No.
some CRMs are linked through it, right? But like
Mm,
I hit that button, and the best thing is it's short. It's only a minute, right? So you can't even
mm,
exceed that if you tried. I mean, you could send multiple voice messages, but that becomes a little bit annoying for the
yeah,
user. But it's really quick, and it's you can hire through at least 30 to 40 in less than half an hour, right? That's how efficient it is. But that quick voice message ended up with a quick calendar check. We set up a
mm,
virtual conference call of sorts,
yeah.
and it led into a proposal.
Well, how often do you use that feature, Neil, as it relates to when you make a new contact? Because I'm just thinking from a strategy perspective, from some of our listeners, viewers, they may want to look at that strategy as a way to engage a little bit differently on LinkedIn. Is instead of, everyone does the connection. Hey, I saw your profile. Looks like you're an interesting individual. I'd like to add you to my network. But why not take that a step further and say, hey, you're an interesting individual. I'd like to add you to my network. And then leave them a quick voicemail with introduction so they can hear the voice of the person that is actually adding them. So they know it's not a sponsored message or, some random person that doesn't really exist overseas. Yeah, it's a
every
good, yeah.
every single time, every single time. It's part of
Wow.
my cadence, right?
Okay.
So voicemail, email, LinkedIn reach out, personalized LinkedIn reach out, by the way, not a canned message, not just
Yep.
pushing that connect button. Although sometimes
Gotcha.
through the app, I have to remind myself, because if I'm using the app, if you hit connect, it automatically sends that just instantaneously. And
Mm-hmm.
you have the option of
Hmm.
sort of tweaking a catered message to that individual, right? And I think it's great to do that. Like if you're not doing that, I would highly recommend that you cater your message based on an observation or a touch point that's relevant for that individual to connect with you. Sure, you can play the ego card and identify that, it seems like you're doing some interesting stuff and things of that nature. But I mean, there's so many different ploys and tactics that are out there. I'm not into the tactics, man. I keep everything 100% real, right?
Yeah.
And I think for the
Authenticity,
most,
man.
yeah, it just comes out, because at the end of the
Yeah.
day, that filter, quote unquote filter, is it's gonna wear off, and people are gonna see you for the person that you are eventually, right? So
Yeah.
why not just be 100% real from the outset? So yeah, to answer your question, every single time, and people are surprised at some points. I even got a few as of late that were like sent me back a voice message, which I was surprised to receive, because
I
not a
like
lot of
that.
people are using it.
Yeah.
The other layer that a lot of people are not using is, once you're connected, you could actually have an opportunity to send a quick video hello reference. And I know I've sent some video emails to you in the past, but this is completely different. This is using the in-app experience to send a video recording as a personalized welcome, and it's unexpected, right? And especially the confines that were set up today.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
people aren't seeing each other, right? So there's this perception of, getting a welcome message, and I don't have to type it out, and people don't have to read it. There's less effort that's involved. I push
Yeah.
play and I listen, or I push play and I watch, and it's so much easier to digest.
Yeah. So much easier to engage as it relates to being on the other end of that communication as a receiver. It's very easy to now engage and have that dialogue with the prospect or the potential colleague or potential partner. You're
Yeah.
just engaging in a different way. So no, I love it. So okay, so that's one great LinkedIn technique thing that you're doing. Since we're down this road, Neil, maybe we can talk about maybe we'll move out of LinkedIn and keep the same social selling hat on. But what about on another platform? So let's leave LinkedIn, because LinkedIn, we can probably spend, like you said, a whole podcast talking about LinkedIn techniques, ideas, concepts, things that we think would help our audience learn a little bit more about or be more active on LinkedIn. But let's flip to another social selling technique that you may employ with not LinkedIn, but any other channel. Pick one, whatever one you think. Maybe it's Twitter, maybe it's Instagram, whatever the case may be. YouTube, maybe, because the YouTube social selling aspect is a very underutilized one, from what I understand. I don't know much about it, but I've been told in some circles it's very underutilized. The short video and some of the other stuff that you can leverage on YouTube. So what else you got?
I mean, for for me, it's we're getting there right now. So we'll look and explore as far as the different hooks and tactics with respect to YouTube, because I
Yeah.
want to bring value to make sure that it's a test case scenario. I haven't had the privilege of actually um, working with an organization myself
Mm.
to orchestrate a various hooks and using B-roll through LinkedIn or YouTube, I should say, in order to set up a click funnel. When I say personally, I mean like through the aspect or through the lens of an organization that I'm selling on behalf.
Yeah.
You set it
Gotcha.
up for YouTube optimization, and then obviously using bots and messaging tactics in order for you to create a sort of a lead funnel or a magnet per se,
Yep. Yep.
where you're putting cookies out there. And I say cookies like sort of like breadcrumbs, right? Little tidbits of information that people can download and have access to. Think of it as what's referred to as evergreen content, right? So you're keeping content that can be repurposed and used in different areas and allowing individuals to get access to those for quick reference and utilizing yourself as the author or the authority based on that particular subject matter that you're putting out there.
Gotcha.
If we're really going to sort of look at this and keep it within the confines of our time today, I
Mm.
would suggest that, LinkedIn, I mean, Instagram is probably the most popular, if not on TikTok. But Instagram right now is has been for the last couple of years been the primary sort of king of the social media channels, and you're just seeing an overwhelming amount of people coming in herds and setting up their profile and
Yeah.
engaging and utilizing creative means by stories and reels and guides and different areas in order to promote their niche or their
Yeah.
niche, however you want to explain it. But I think for the most part, just commenting, like you mentioned before, bringing value, identifying your area of expertise, and engaging, right?
Yeah.
Engaging with people, engaging with their journey and what they're going through. I think that's the key. I think a lot of people are caught up in the me centric, or what I'm doing this, we did that type of thing. But if it's on the business side of things, it's really like, what can we do for you, and what's in it for me, looking at the user experience, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You're telling from a link from a IG perspective, it's more you centric, or like what do you
I
mean?
just
Like,
think that people are caught up like in themselves,
mm,
and they're
like
promoting
self
themselves.
promotion?
You
Like,
got it. Yeah.
yeah. No,
And they're
I
putting
hear
stuff
you.
out there, and they're not commenting on things.
No, it's I won't say it's unfortunate, but it's pretty prescribed when you go into LinkedIn, or sorry, when you go into IG and you just look at somebody, and I don't want to call them out, but you have some people that have brands, whether they be personal brands, stature in movies, TV, whatever they have, from a platform perspective to influence people. Influencer marketing is a whole other thing. Like, that's a whole rabbit hole we could go down. I don't understand it that well. I'm sure you've had some encounters with it. But it's a big part of how Instagram monetizes the platform and monetizes what you see on it. I know just from a personal experience, when you're scrolling through, you see a lot of, especially now, because I'm doing podcasts and I'm a little bit more on the B2B side, and you probably see this from your feed, getting a lot more podcast help, or let me help you increase and boost your podcast. So it's almost like the algorithm follows you around on what you're doing, but that's what it's designed for. And I guess that's probably the definition of an algorithm. Something that follows you online. Isn't that what algorithm stands for? Something that follows you online. What is an algorithm, boys and girls? Something that follows you online. You're right, Jimmy. Um, so yeah, it's influencer marketing, and just having stuff show up for personal gain and personal advertising. You can't, what's the word? You can't hate them for it, because everyone's got to make a living. Everyone's got to, get their provide living and money for their family and all this other stuff. But from a personal perspective, you just need to be aware of it, and then decide personally whether it's something that influences you, something that annoys you, and then you can silence or mute it. So like with anything social media wise, it's up to you to curate your own experience. And if you choose to watch, great. If you choose not to watch, skip, unfollow, unlike whatever you need to do, you can curate your own experience. So you can't necessarily complain about what you're getting in your feed or what you're subscribing to or who you're following. It's completely in your choice. It's that whole idea, Neil, where some people say at the beginning of the year, they do a purge. They purge all the people that are not relevant to them or that they have no interaction with, they haven't commented on, they don't, do you know what I mean? Like there is some,
It's good though.
yeah, like
Detox.
Detox. Thank you. It's a thing, right? And it's needed, right? Just to get ourselves clear.
Not only that, it also helps, right? Because if
Yeah.
you're not interacting with individuals and they're just there because you're caught up in the numbers game, let me ask you, is it better to have 10,000 followers that don't reply and don't engage, or is it better to have 100 people that are fully engaged and are supporting and are getting into that dialogue and discussion and helping you grow and learn and sharing information that's valuable, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're just caught up in the numbers, then by all means, go pay for your followers and get a bot and get out there and then try to get branded and try to create influence. But at the end of the day, when the brands are looking at the types of engagement that you're trying to connect them with, as far as helping them move the needle in the right direction, they don't want 10,000 bots following their brand. What good is that, right?
Yeah.
There's no contribution to the bottom line if that takes place, right? Because if
Zero.
putting an offer or a promo code in, no one's going to be typing that in unless there's bots that are making automated purchases that I'm not sure about. And by all means, folks, I'm not proclaiming to know 100% of every social media channel that's out there. By no means, way, shape, or form. I'm just saying that, if you're keeping things real, you want to make sure that it's authentic and that you're being engaged and sort of sharing that experience with individuals, right?
Yeah. So like I said, we could probably get really deep in the weeds on this. And I think we can save some content for a more in-depth look. And we can maybe even go channel by channel, right? We can do a LinkedIn thing and we can look at Instagram a little bit more and do a little bit more homework on those platforms and really give our audience a really good perspective on how those things work. Now, did you want to, like, we have some flexibility and I wanted to make sure that we're adding value, but I didn't want to go extremely long with conversation and whatnot. But did you want to talk about some resources, Neil? Like, where did you want to transition?
I mean, there's a number of different reports that are out there. There's a lot of different channels that sort of automate your social media content development and things of that nature. And, whether it's Hootsuite or whether it's, Super Office, I know the IDC came out with a report that identifies that, 91% of B2B buyers are active and are involved in social media. I think it's 84% of senior executives use social, right? 75% of B2B buyers are significantly influenced by social media. I think the big question is, depending on where you are and who you are, if you're using this and you're a business leader, you're coming to us and trying to gain some sort of nuggets to take away. I think it's important to take a closer look at how you're utilizing social media as far as your marketing campaign is concerned, right?
Yeah.
If you're looking at it as far as driving an ROI is concerned, how are you incorporating a social media spend or content management or content development and or deployment and execution as part of your marketing mix, right? What percentage of that? I mean, yesteryear we were doing television, radio, and direct mail. Well, if you're mailing to businesses right now, given the current state of the economy and our lockdown, you're mailing to businesses and no one's checking the mail, or they are checking it, but it's not getting to, the director of operations who you need to chat with for sort of an ERP integration, right? Like you're missing the boat. You don't want to check the box to say, okay, yeah, we did it, set it and forget it. That's what we were doing last year. But at the same point in time, there was a report by one of the large research firms. I'm drawing a blank right now, but they do
Gartner, Accenture, one of them.
I think it was Gartner. They do a CMO annual report, and they take a closer look at how large organizations, anywhere from let's say a million to I think it's in the billions, as far as the marketing spend is concerned, or sorry, revenue earned, then how they allocate their marketing budget towards different channels. And they get as specific as different social media channels, but it's interesting to see that the increase in social media spend has increased about 12 to 15% within the last year. And that's no sign of slowing down. Consumption, like there's a whole bunch of reports. Hootsuite puts out a fantastic report each year as far as the global usage of internet, of social media channels, of various chats, right?
Yeah.
So there's a method to the madness, right?
Yeah, most definitely. And it's something that we should provide some resources for folks that are going to
Absolutely, yeah.
consume
We'll
this.
include those links in the description for the YouTube
Excellent.
people that are viewing us. So if you're on the podcast, guys, head over to YouTube, search Hustlemode podcast, and you'll find us there. Guys, if you're getting value from the information that we're bringing you here today, just smash that like button, hit that subscribe, ring that notification bell, just to ensure that the next time we launch any type of information that's related like this, that you're keeping in the loop and you're one of the first ones to gain access.
Perfect. All right. So with that, Neil, I think we have some exciting stuff coming down the pipe. So hopefully the next time that folks join us, they'll be seeing some excellent content and some excellent guests that we're going to be inviting to share the stage with us. So
You know what?
thanks.
Before we close up, Jay, I just want to get into a few little tips or tidbits of information and maybe tips that people can walk away with as
Sounds
far as
good.
getting started with social selling, right? So, for those of you who may be fearful of getting involved with social, like I said, maybe step one is setting up your social media channels and owning those accounts. Step two would be start with social listening. Social listening is a great way for you to be abreast and keep informed about what's happening, how people are maybe using the platform, what companies, whether it's your competitors or other organizations that you may follow, that they can get familiar with what information that they're putting out, right? And
Yeah.
how people are using it. That would be number two. I would then identify with choosing the most relevant social network for yourself, right? So where do you begin, right? Is it Pinterest? Is it LinkedIn? Is it Instagram? Is it Twitter? Like, are you on TikTok? Like, what are we doing here, right? And again, if you don't know what any of these are, just Google, YouTube, start the process, create an account, right?
Yeah.
Don't get caught up in the numbers. You know, I see people that are overly aggressively trying to get people to buy followers. I think there was even a Netflix video or small documentary that said "Follow Me" or something like that, and I caught it the other day. But anyways, it was quite interesting to see how people can get caught up in the actual numbers themselves. Organizations are trying to buy followers, right? Like they have $1,000. I saw someone doing $1,000 giveaway by tagging, referencing, commenting, and enter your chance to win for $1,000. Sure, I mean it's great, but are those people going to stick around after the contest is expired? Are they going to remember or then one day forget or that they're
Yeah.
involved with you and then unsubscribe or unfollow? So, there's you have to be a little bit mindful as far as a long-term play or game, right?
Yeah. I hear you. So those are great resources and great tips to get started on social selling. So thank you